Welcome to The Explainer. So if you're the kind of person who just loves to optimize, constantly trying to squeeze every last drop of potential out of a system, you are absolutely in the right place today. We're breaking down a really fascinating academic assessment submitted to the Institute of Sports Humanities. It takes a hard analytical look at elite sports strategy, specifically the famous concept of marginal gains. We hear this buzzword thrown around all the time in business and athletics, but today we're stripping away the hype to look at it strictly from a rigorous organizational management perspective.
Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. 1. The 1% advantage. 2. Team Sky's integrated system. 3. The science of quality. 4. The limits of marginal gains. And 5. Judgment over obsession.
Section 1. The 1% advantage, when talent isn't enough.
To really get this strategy, we've got to first establish the core problem. Think about modern elite sports. Literally, everyone at that level has access to world-class training, high-tech gear, elite nutrition, the whole shebang. The gap between winning and losing is so incredibly narrow now. You just can't rely on one massive tactical decision or one freakishly talented athlete to carry the day anymore. And that brings us to the foundational logic of marginal gains. Imagine looking at a super complex process and improving several tiny, seemingly insignificant areas by just 1%. Individually, these changes look like rounding errors, but cumulatively, they add up to create a massive competitive advantage. In fact, the source points out that this exact mathematical philosophy drove British cycling's historic haul of 10 Olympic medals. It's the ultimate proof that tiny tweaks can yield major outcomes.
But to pull this off, you need a total mindset shift. We have to completely abandon that outdated myth that sports are won purely through heroic performance, raw grit, and natural talent on race day. The modern view? It tells a totally different story. It's highly scientific, it's a managed approach to performance, it's all about operational discipline where success is literally engineered months before the starting gun even fires. Section 2. Team Sky's integrated system, leaving no stone unturned. Let's look at how this was actually executed in the real world. Team Sky took this abstract theory and made it their day-to-day operational reality. They didn't just analyze how a cyclist pedaled. They targeted hyper-specific, almost obsessive details. And we're not just talking about tweaking bike gears here. We're talking about riders bringing their own personal pillows from home when they traveled, just to guarantee perfect sleep posture, which, let's be honest, probably earned them some pretty funny looks at the airport. They taught clinical, surgical-level hand washing so a random cold wouldn't ruin months of prep. They mapped out timed performance nutrition, dialed in aerodynamic clothing, and even brought in mindfulness to manage performance anxiety. They proved that winning gets built in the quiet, completely unglamorous details.
But here is the real secret sauce. The breakthrough innovation wasn't simply that Team Sky cared about small details. Any decent coach cares about sleep and diet. The game changer was applying systems thinking. They managed all of these tiny, completely different details together as one single, highly complex, integrated system. They realized that the pillow, the hand washing, the aerodynamics, they were all interconnected gears turning inside the exact same machine.
Section 3. The science of quality, beyond motivational quotes.
Marginal gains isn't just some catchy sports buzzword meant for a locker room poster. It's actually deeply rooted in heavy-hitting industrial and business management theories, specifically total quality management, or TQM. It's a total staple of modern manufacturing. TQM dictates that quality isn't something you just inspect at the very end of an assembly line. It has to be built right into the process itself. In elite sports, this means performance isn't just on the athlete's shoulders come race day. It relies entirely on the coaches, the data analysts, the nutritionists, the mechanics, the entire support staff, all acting with total organizational discipline. And this brilliantly illustrates Deming's famous PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, act. It's actually wild to see how a framework originally designed for factory floors maps perfectly onto elite cycling prep. You plan the performance, you do the training, you check the biometric and timing data, and then you act on that feedback to refine the system. It's just this continuous, disciplined loop of learning. Okay, but before we go completely all in on this philosophy, we have to hit pause and ask the hard questions. Does this hyper-detailed system actually work for everyone? Is it some universal magic bullet? Or are there massive hidden costs lurking right beneath the surface of these success stories?
Section 4. The limits of marginal gains. The reality check.
So the academic assessment doesn't just praise the strategy, it rigorously explores its severe downsides. Take this number for instance, 20%. That highlights a massive strategic danger. It's the trap of chasing a tiny 1% detail while completely ignoring a huge
20% foundational flaw. Imagine obsessing over a 1% gain from some fancy recovery pillow when your organization has a 20% deficit in basic coaching, poor recruitment, or just a lack of proper funding. If the foundation of your house is crumbling, optimizing the paint job is strategically ridiculous.
Let's break down these severe costs a bit more. First off, it's absolutely a luxury strategy. Only organizations with massive resources can even afford to monitor every little detail. Second, you eventually hit diminishing returns. Finding that next 1% starts to cost an absolute fortune. But the most alarming costs? They're human. Think about the amplified stress. When every single bite of food you eat, an hour of sleep you get is tracked and judged, it really strips athletes of their autonomy. The source warns that this constant monitoring can create a system of control rather than support, which actually increases the risk of depression and anxiety.
And then, we run into the ethical boundary. The source material takes a very objective look at what happens when this drive to optimize goes unchecked. It points to the AFL peptide investigation as a stark case study. It demonstrates that when you have incredibly high resources and a mandate to constantly push limits, but you lack strong corporate governance controls, well, you create massive risks for doping and unethical practices. It's a profound reminder. A system that constantly asks, what else can be improved, absolutely must be counterbalanced by leadership asking, what should absolutely not be done?
Section 5. Judgment over obsession. Finding the right signal.
So in our modern, complex environments where we are just flooded with endless streams of data, the primary job of a manager isn't just to collect more numbers. It's to separate the actual meaningful performance signal from all the noisy distractions. You have to know the difference between true innovation and mere over-optimization. Innovation is about making better decisions to build a stronger environment. Over-optimization is when you get so completely obsessed with controlling micro-details that you lose sight of the wider purpose. The paper reminds us, athletes are not machines and sports are not factories. You can't just mechanically apply quality management without prioritizing the human element, motivation, trust, and emotional resilience.
And this brings us right to the core academic conclusion of this entire assessment. The true genius of marginal gains is not the obsession with small details. Honestly, anyone can become obsessed with details. The real genius is having the strategic judgment to know exactly which details are actually worth the obsession and which ones are just expensive distractions. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Look at your own life, your own business, or your daily routines. Are you truly obsessing over the right 1% details that actually drive performance? Or actually have you fallen into the trap of just obsessing over the things that are easy to measure? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.